Wonderful. Good afternoon, folks. My name is Abby Getman-Skillicorn, and I am here from Massachusetts Farm to School. Welcome. We're going to give folks a minute to log in. We will be starting with our presentation today about local meat and seafood menu options. And I'm joined by two of our distinguished food service directors from different parts of the state, who I'll introduce shortly. But thanks for joining us today. And just to let you know some housekeeping, this is being recorded, so this will be shared out after the presentation today. The chat function will be for links that we are sharing with you as participants, so keep your eye on that. If you have any questions, we welcome any and all questions, and we'll aim to answer them throughout the presentation as they come in. So please use the Q&A function for any questions that you have as we move through today's presentation. So with that, I will start sharing my screen and we'll get going. Can everyone see, can you see the slides for the my landing slide, local meat and seafood? Great. Hopefully those of you attending today know, but Mass Farm to School, we're a statewide organization and part of a national movement that's working to strengthen local farms and fisheries and promote healthy communities by increasing local food purchasing and education in schools. We are the contracted outreach provider with DESE as it relates to both the Mass Fresh Grant and the Northeast Food for Schools program. So October reimbursements are in process right now. And if you want to check your remaining balance, if you're a Northeast Food for Schools participating school, you can use the QR code that is provided here. In today's webinar, we'll go through some introductions. We'll talk about different local meat and seafood vendors Massachusetts Farm to School has been seeing different districts around the state working with as it relates to Northeast Food for Schools. We'll also go over to some local highlights in Belchertown where local beef is on the menu. Then we'll head over to Belmont where Jackie's serving seafood many ways. We'll cover some Mass Farm to School resources, including the Mass Grown Exchange that's through the Department of Agricultural Resources. So if there are specific products you're looking for, you can connect directly with potential vendors. We'll quickly scan over the properly procuring any local vendors, including the 3-quote sample, and we'll have ample time for questions and our contact information. And at this time, I just want to say congratulations again to Barrett Grazioso from Belchertown Public Schools, who won the terrific trays for January with the local beef stew featuring beef from Austin Ridge Acres, which is a woman family-owned farm. And the beef stew also featured school garden grown herbs in the process. For today's presenters, we have Barrett Grazioso, who's the food service director for Belchertown Public Schools, Jacqueline Morgan from Belmont, and myself. And at this point in time, I'd love each of you to do a brief introduction of yourselves. Folks know that you have ample industry experience. Jackie wanted to lead her introduction with the most important thing in her world, which is that she's a proud mother of 3 kids and, you know, is married to her husband Tom of 38 years. I moved that a little bit lower in the introduction section, but yeah, Jackie and Barrett, would you mind introducing yourselves to our group today?
Sure, I'll start. Hi everyone, I'm Jackie Morgan, and I've been in school nutrition since I was 23 years old, and I've been a food service director for 38 years. I did 15 years in the Walpole Public Schools. I then sound like a third time. I then worked 22 years in the Milton Public Schools, my hometown. And now I've been in the Belmont schools for 1.5 years. So welcome.
Thank you.
And I worked for a number of years as a chef, pastry chef. And then I jumped over when I had children to the food service, to school food service. I started out actually at a private boarding school in Connecticut, Farmington, Connecticut, and then Martha's Vineyard Public Charter School. And so all in all, 10 years in the school districts, and and over 25 years in the food industry total. So I've enjoyed bringing all of my experience to my current role.
Thank you both. Um, and I would just say I've had the pleasure of getting to know both of these women in their distinguished careers with K-12 education because of their energy and enthusiasm and like can do it. Local procurement is possible. It doesn't have to have as many barriers, as some might be led to believe. And so really excited to have them share their wisdom and their experience with everyone today. Just a little snapshot, the Northeast Food for Schools is a one-time USDA grant that is supporting over 240 school districts this school year with nutrition dollars that are specifically for buying local foods within 400 miles. A lot of folks have gone and thought about what kind of produce they want to source. And I just want to say, Jackie and Barrett are here because they've also been thinking about what kinds of protein sources they can be using with their NFS dollars. And we have seen around the state different farms, butcher houses, or the fish mongers that are providing really high quality products to school districts around the state. So from Williamstown, Massachusetts, the northwest corner of the Berkshires, down to Red's Best sources fish off of Chatham. Walden Local utilizes a variety of small beef farmers from around New England and Eastern New York. Meatworks specializes, they're out of Westport, Massachusetts, and they specialize in supporting small farmers from Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and Connecticut. And we have the Country Hen in Hubbardston that's been serving eggs to people. Some people are getting them through distributors. But some are also getting direct Country Hen shipments. And North Coast Seafood, you'll hear a lot about today as well because of their fish and other plant-based products. And we'll get a special highlight about the hen house at Austin Ridge Acres in Belchertown. So just to say, they're meat and seafood. It's available year round. We have a lot of really great options for small, like very clearly sourced vendors in our area, small farmers or, fishermen who are really, really trying to keep the industry alive with high quality catches. So we'll talk a little bit more about that today. So Barrett, would you please take it over and talk a little bit about the beef you're working with over in Belchertown?
Sure. So we're fortunate enough, excuse me, to live in a rural community where actually Belchertown was known for um, raising protein as well as vegetables. But um, there were three farms that I sent my quote out to, and I will say that actually we have four total that I could have picked from. I didn't hear back from one of the quotes, but I did hear from another one that they weren't going to be able to supply us with enough. So thankfully, the hen house at Austin Ridge was really looking to build their herd, and they're actually their daughter is in school here, so it's really cool because my office is at the school she's at, and so when we have this day, she's kind of a local celebrity because these are the cows that she's helping raise. Um, and I know, I drive by this farm every day, so I have a relationship with the farmers, and for me it was a tremendous opportunity to allow them to provide us meat for the year. I do purchase some vegetables locally as well, but I knew that, rather than going 400 miles away, I could go 5 miles away. So that was a big part of choosing the local beef. And then knowing my skill set in the kitchen, what were we going to be able to utilize? And I knew that I could do not chicken, beef patties, but to allow the meat to stretch further, ground beef and stew meat, of course, is an excellent way to do that. And then some of my kitchens have stronger culinarians, and some of my kitchens, they're not as comfortable cooking the stew meat. So essentially what we did is I use the meat for, we'll do like spaghetti sauce, spaghetti and meat sauce, and we'll do chili. We will do taco day. And then my two schools where my culinarians are, I do the stew and then beef stroganoff. Because the stew meat takes a little longer to cook, this is a, um, product that takes potentially 6 hours, to cook. So we'll start it a day in advance, to make sure that it's tender. But the feedback that we've had, just the smell alone in all the kitchens when it's cooking, um, our participation is up by far on those days when it's local, but specifically with the adults. Our teachers are coming down to eat. Um, and we have one student at our middle school who basically he came in one day to comment on the stew and he said, "Don't tell my mom, but the beef stew is better than hers," and asked if he could buy some to go. It was really, really cute. Um, so essentially this has been an incredibly successful program, and one of the things that I hope that we will be able to continue, to buy the local beef. Is I think it's made a big difference, um, in not only in our participation but just supporting people in our community.
That's great. And thank you, Barrett, for providing some of these photos for today's presentation. Can you go a little bit more into some of what you're talking about as far as your staff training
Mhm.
and their response as far as like how you've gotten a little bit more buy-in in your schools with some
Yes.
trickier recipes?
Yes. So originally, when I said, that, I asked all my cook managers, I said, "All right, I think I want to spend the money on local beef. What do you think?" Um, and they loved the idea. Of course, we have, people who know this family as well, so they saw it as a great opportunity to use a product that many of them purchase at home. And the stew meat essentially was the probably the biggest hurdle, I would say, mainly because you had to pull it, a few days in advance, and then you had to cook it in like a 2-day process. Um, and and that's I would say that was the biggest hurdle, especially for the high school, because we do feed so many kids at our high school. Our participation there is about 400 lunches. Um, so essentially, just getting that part, I would say was the biggest difficulty. But essentially, um, our cook manager, they're very proud of the product. So when they got the feedback, to them it was like the effort was no big deal. Like they wanted to do it, and and then as far as the ground beef, same thing. If they have to pull it ahead of time, cook it ahead of time, but when they get the feedback, it makes it all worth it.
Yeah. I love, just thinking about how aromatic the schools are on the beef stew days. And
Yeah,
thinking about, this week on Monday, which was a delayed start for a lot of schools around the state, thinking about the kinds of warm aromas that might be coming from school kitchens, really nourishing
exactly.
the whole school community, thinking
It
about.
is, and as the kids are walking in, they're smelling that, and they're thinking, "Oh my," like this smells like something I want to eat. And obviously our participation is up because we are doing free meals, but specifically on these days, um, it's a whole different feeling.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So I just want to let folks know I am dropping links in the chat. So Barrett has provided some of her recipes that she's using in Belchertown, which you can find in the chat, as well as the link to her Facebook, the Belchertown's School Nutrition Facebook page. And if you have questions, please enter them into the Q&A. We will be offering CEU credits. There was one question that was asking if folks will get CEU credits for attending today. And the answer is yes, as long as you fill out the survey at the end of the form, or at the end of the presentation today. So great. Thank you, Barrett.
Welcome.
Jackie, would you like to take over and talk to us a little bit about your methodology with seafood in Belmont and beyond?
I would love to. So I have been a huge advocate of fresh fish in schools, and a little different from Barrett, there is no smell. So the beautiful thing about fresh fish is it doesn't smell. And when we first started this in my former district in Milton about 6 or 8 years ago, all the kids came to a beautiful assembly that I organized with Red's Best and my high school principal at the time. And he had 1,000 children in the audience. And he said, the first thing I want to say to you is if you smell fish in this building today, do not eat lunch because fresh fish doesn't smell. And it was just perfect. So I've been really, really lucky to partner with many. I have 2 different fish distributors that I just adore. And, you know, I did something about 8 years ago. I spent a day at Red's Best and I spent a day in the life of a fisherman. And I spent a lot of time with the fishermen, talking to them about their jobs and what they do. And they are really struggling. I mean, their job is so weather dependent. Their job is so dependent if their motors are working on their boats. I mean, if you just think about the weather and the winds we had last night, well, you can't fish in those kind of winds. So they're living check to check. And that kind of what got me is because we really need to help them stay in business so that we can all have fresh fish to eat. And then I'd be down the Cape and I'd see these trucks everywhere. And I decided to say, oh my God, there's another one. And once you see the Red's Best trucks, you'll see them everywhere. So we started with the program called Catch of the Day. It will probably be on the next slide, but like, I've been doing this for 38 years. I know a lot of you out there, I see Deb Mungford on the call. Like, we've been doing this a long time and we're so much better than fish sticks from the freezer. We really are. And that are probably made in like, you know, who knows what they made. So we started this program with Jamie Lynott at Red's Best, and it's called Catch of the Day. And what I agreed to, and what a lot of food service directors who are using this program is we agree to take one of 4 fishes. And food service directors weren't really good at this. I'm just going to say it. We're kind of difficult sometimes. So you have to be really flexible and you got to go with the flow, which is what I've learned over my journey here, because I wasn't very good with the flowy. But it's really, what did the fisherman catch yesterday? And isn't that what we want? We want the freshest fish possible, but we're also helping them move inventory. We're helping them, you know, whatever they happen to catch on whatever day or where did they fish? Maybe they were in Gloucester, maybe they were in Chatham, maybe they were in New Bedford. What did they catch that day? And I spent probably 2 or 3 hours learning all about dogfish, and dogfish used to be a nuisance fish. And I learned from these fishermen, we had to figure out a way to make dogfish work because they're stuck in all of our nets. And we can't throw the fish overboard anymore. We have to keep what we caught. And that's where Red's Best comes in. He says to fisherman Joe, I'll take all your fish you caught. I will sell it for you and I'll pay you after I sell it. And you know, that's how it works. So fish, for a little side note, dogfish is now your fish and chips, which is really great. Before it used to be caught, the fins were sent to Japan and China, and the rest of it was tossed. So it's your new fish and chips when you go out to a restaurant. So what we have to agree to is accept either pollock, haddock, fluke, or hake. Fluke is new to us this year. It used to be I had to settle for one of the 3. Now I settle for one of the 4. And it's wonderful. And MAPC did a seafood bid years ago, and this is all kind of how this all got to be. No matter what kind of fish I get, it's still the same price, $5.95 a pound, so it's wonderful. And then we try to prepare it and we try to serve it like you would in a restaurant. And I am telling you, it tastes like you're in a restaurant. And I am just going to say, Barrett, I'm so proud of you. I tried to submit for the best tray and you won, so congratulations. But this is our fresh kale, our fresh squash, our local fish. You know, it's really fun. It's really exciting. So if you go to the next slide, we can talk a little bit more about.
And I just, I entered one link. I updated the link in the.
Okay, that's fine. So we do this fresh fish, and you know, we do make a couple of portions, probably like maybe 20. And we're serving this at our Belmont Middle High School. We have 2,200 students. And we serve probably 20 servings of like a gluten-free that we'll make. It will be, you know, a little, my manager here is a chef. So I have like a Barrett right in house, thank God. And she'll do like capers and Parmesan cheese, and she'll make a beautiful topping on the catch of the day for our gluten-free children. So that's been really nice. So fish of the day, catch of the day, we call it baked scrod. Most of our students didn't know that scrod wasn't a fish. Scrod means catch of the day. And we're serving like 400 to 500 servings of it. So we literally get in buckets of fish that we weigh and measure to 4-ounce servings raw. We cook it off and it's delicious. And then another thing that we're doing, if you've met the amazing Andrew Wilkinson, who is a character, he also is in the fishing industry, and he has been so creative and come up with this new product of kelp. And as my former superintendent used to say, who the hell you think would ever be eating kelp or kale in school? But they are. So Andrew came together with the lobstermen in Maine, and many of them are really struggling up there. The water temperatures are changing. We just had him in for the day, and he did a chef tasting, and he explained to the kids that in 10 years, the Maine lobsters are going to be up in Canada because they're following the cold water, which is terrifying. But what he's doing with the Maine fishermen is they're all, not all, but many of them are sourcing kelp now. And they have this massive big poster out about what kelp is, and kelp is so clean, and it's allergy free, it's sustainable. It's amazing. So we have been working with Andrew Wilkinson and his North Coast Seafood, and we have been serving kelp balls. So my students are aggravating with me that we call them meatballs. And one of them stopped me one day and goes, "You got to get the word meat out of there, Mrs. Morgan. Like, what are we doing here?" And I'm like, "Okay, all right, you're right. So I know that we call them kelp seaweedish balls, but we're working on a name and we'll figure it out. But we just had a writer in yesterday from Edible Magazine who was fascinated to just even imagine that children would be eating kelp in schools. So Andrew's come out with this great product. It's allergy free. It's so clean. We did a whole sampling one day, and these are 3 of my seniors smelling the kelp. And he served his kelp Swedish balls 2 different ways. He served it once like over an olive oil with a quinoa salad for our gluten-free students, and he also served it with a marinara sauce. So our students really liked the marinara sauce tasting of it. So we've been serving it as like the day we have a meatball sub on a vegetarian line, we'll have a kelp seaweedish sub. And we're also serving something that he has called ocean burgers. I hope I'm right, Andrew. It's 80% salmon and 20% kelp, and it's delicious. I have to say, it is absolutely delicious. And these things might be a little bit more expensive than we're used to, like, chicken nugget, but it's worth it. And like Barrett said, we have a little bit of extra money with free meals, and our participations are up. So we're trying to use some of that money and find some creative ways to serve our students. In Belmont, I have a lot of students who aren't interested in eating pork. I have a lot of students who don't want to eat meat. I have vegans, I have vegetarians, I have pescatarians. I have it all, and it's wonderful. I'm learning so much. So these things are all coming in helping us. I think some of my struggles is when we served the ocean burgers the first day, all the kids who weren't vegetarian were taking them. So that's exciting. And he sells them, and they're in a beautiful packaging. I do think Andrew tried to start with colleges, and then we found out about it and snuck right in. But they're packed beautiful. They come in frozen. You cook what you need. But it was 18 in the case, and I think we thought would serve 18 just because they were new and different. We did 18 first lunch. So now when I order from Andrew, I have to get 10 cases in, so I'm prepared. But they're going over really well. It's really exciting to see like students eating them. And when the author was in yesterday, the Edible Magazine, she said, "Oh, do you mind if I go talk to students?" I said, "Oh, do you want me to introduce you?" She goes, "No, I can do it." So we turned around, and there was a table, and 2 girls at the table of 10. They hadn't all seated yet. Were sitting with the kelp meatballs over there, marinara and pasta. And so she went right over and introduced her. And by the time she finished talking, I think it was 6 of the 10 girls had pasta with kelp Swedish balls in front of them. And she was blown away that students were actually choosing this. And it was up against like 15 other entrees, 5 different kinds of salads and power packs and, cheese pizza. And the main meal was, I don't know, what, chicken Parmesan. And, we have our grab and goes. And she just was sitting with them, and she was like, she was fascinated that of all the choices you had, this is what you chose. So our students are really, they're really open. And I think all of us have students who are really open to try new things. I do stand out there often and say, "Listen, if you don't like it, come back and see me. I'll get you something else." And I haven't had anyone come back. But having Andrew, if you see in the picture back there, poor Andrew, he stood up there and fed 2,200 children samples. He was even stunned that the 7th and 8th graders were eating them. So it's been a really exciting time in Belmont. It's really exciting seeing students trying this. And, not everything that we're buying qualifies for the Northeast reimbursement. But when I first met Ashley, when I first met, we talked about, oh, I'm just gonna do my gorilla milk. I don't know if you remember that. And she goes, oh, Jackie, come on. And I said, all right, here we go. And, I went up to the USDA show last May and I found the Worcester Food Hub. And we're doing so much business. We do like $2,000 a week with the Worcester Food Hub. And we're using all of that, all of our Northeast. I think Belmont, we got about $24,700. And we're using it for our Red's Best. Not all of our North Coast seafood qualifies, and that's okay because the kelp meatballs have chickpeas in them. And, as we spoke earlier, we don't think the chickpea is a 400-mile radius. But that's okay because it just makes you branch out, makes you try hard, and makes you find more things. But just when I went to that show last year up at the Norwood 4 Points Inn, everybody go. I saw Andrew again there, and he was sampling the kelp Swedish balls. And I met Worcester Food Hub, and that's how I got linked up with them. And it's because that Mass Farm to School connection with Department of Elementary Secondary Ed and USDA, they're helping us find these places. They're making it so easy. Yesterday, when we had Edible Magazine, I had Simca come in. I know a lot of you know Simca. She's the Northeast, I think, part of the Mass Farm to School.
Yeah, she's the co-director for our organization. Yep.
And she just was so great filling the gaps. And she's like, we've been at this for like 12 years, 14 years, trying to get more local food onto children's plates. And it's really working. And I'm just going to always do a huge shout out to the governor of Massachusetts for helping us and giving us free meals to all. It's really helping us expose children to healthier, more local food.
And Jackie, I loved when we were first pitching this. I mean, just hearing the, excuse me, the absolute like dedication and commitment to like, no, as school nutrition professionals, like we have this wonderful opportunity to expose students to different kinds of foods that they might not have at home. And your point to like fish shouldn't smell. Depending on a student's chef at home, they might not always have a favorable experience with fish or, seafood in their home. And so to be able to come into a safe environment like the schools and be like, oh, I can do a taste test. I can see what this tastes like, and then get to enjoy something and then, start to see it regularly on the menu. Just helps build a lot of trust and like more curious palates. We're growing more adventurous eaters as more of these complex menu options are becoming more easily available. And I think it's the both of, what scratch cooking can happen in the schools. Like they're talking about, the beef stew that's really cooked with care over 2 days, as well as, we have vendors that are really trying to make more accessible products that can come to schools, the beef strips that are pre-julienned, or, the 4-ounce hamburgers, but that are still made with local beef. Like these are options that weren't necessarily available to school districts 10 years ago, like you were saying.
And other things like that North Coast is doing, we buy his fish tender that is covered with coconut. So, of course, it's not Northeast, reimbursable for funds, but it's just a fabulous product. And children's I love a good Mounds bar. Children love the taste of coconut, and it's another way just to expose children. So my manager here, Teresa Vidette, I'll say her name 100 times. She's so talented. She'll make fish tacos with that. She'll do fish and chips with that. And it's just another company. Red's Best makes a gorgeous, gorgeous haddock fish stick. It is superior to any fish stick I've ever had in my life. And it's made out of, 2 years ago, they had an abundance of haddock in the ocean and they just didn't know what to do with it. So they came up and they decided to do this beautiful fish stick. And I'll serve it across the board with macaroni and cheese. I serve it as a decoration, I always say. It's like 2 fish sticks on the side. And it's just getting children exposed to trying fish. Because the fish sticks of long ago taste so different than the fish sticks at Red's Best. So I just really hope everyone can give it a try because it's really worthwhile.
Thank you. This is making me hungry. So a few things that we also want to share with you. We've talked about some of the direct vendors that, Jackie or Barrett are working with, but Massachusetts Farm to School, we have a whole database of different vendors that want to work with schools. And so if you go to the utilize, go to our website and go to the local food map, I'll walk you through. I also want to highlight on this slide, you can use that QR code to book a 20-minute consultation with me or one of my colleagues at Mass Farm to School, and we can help pinpoint specific vendors that you could work with, either through micro purchasing or that you could set up with, you know, a 3-quote process if there are specific products that you're looking to add to your menu. Barrett didn't need our help. She was able to issue her own RFP. So let me just stop sharing really quickly so I can get over to the right browser screen. And so just to demystify it a little bit for folks, when you go to Mass Farm to School, it's here. The local food map is right here on our website. And when you go on, you can click View Local Producer List. And this is a spreadsheet of a variety of different farms and producers that have responded to Mass Farm to School saying, yes, we want to sell to schools. And you can search by socially disadvantaged if you want. The Northeast Food for Schools does have a goal through USDA of increasing procurement, specifically in supporting businesses that are socially disadvantaged. They might be BIPOC-owned businesses, women-owned businesses, refugee-owned businesses. You know, so you could sort certainly through that. I know that in North Adams, that has been one of the methodologies that Corey has been using to choose different vendors. But then also, forgive me, if you go over to, for example, looking for different meat vendors that are in your area. I was talking to a food service director this morning, you know, in Worcester County, and just looking at some of the different, you can see town-wise, what different you know, vendors are that might be in your area. You can search by zip code if you wanted to. We can certainly search by seafood. I have to take the meat filter off. So these are in addition to North Coast Seafood and Red's Best, who we've been talking about today. Here are other seafood vendors that are working throughout the state in trying to provide schools with more seafood options. So just so you know, that is available to you. I'm also happy to walk anyone through, again, through an individual coaching session if you have specific products that you're looking to add to your menu. And then the Mass Grown Exchange, MDAR, the Department of, you know, DESE's counterpart at the state level for supporting farmers and fishermen, is the Mass Department of Agricultural Resources, and they have they call the Mass Grown Exchange. And so if there are specific products, you're planning to put out an RFQ for something, and you're looking for a really specific product, you can list that on the Mass Grown Exchange in addition to soliciting through your 3-quote process. So I just encourage folks to also utilize that. That is a statewide specific resource that is available to us here in Massachusetts. It's not, you know, a USDA thing. It's really Massachusetts specific. So as I mentioned, you know, if you're planning to spend more than $10,000 with any particular vendor, Barrett talked about how, you know, she went out to a 3-quote process, and lo and behold, only one vendor responded, and it happened to be like the Friendly Farmer that's kind of a celebrity in schools in Belchertown. But there is a 3-quote sample that Mass Farm to School worked with the DESE Financial Services team to develop. So you can pull this request for quotes off of our website and customize it specifically to what you're looking to procure. And in the process, you only have to send it out to a minimum of 3 vendors that you know could respond. So you wouldn't necessarily, you know, if you're looking for local seafood, you might not be in Belmont, you might not be sending it to a North Adams river fishery that that I don't know about. But for example, you know, in good faith, you're sending it out to vendors who you know could respond. They don't have to respond in order for you to award the contract to the most favorable quote. A few other reminders. You can find out about your Northeast Food for Schools remaining balance by, again, I dropped that link in the chat. I'll drop it in again momentarily. But we also really want terrific trays. So Jackie didn't win last month, but we have Hope Springs Eternal. We're really hoping to get
I'll keep
more
trying.
beautiful photos. Exactly. We want more beautiful photos of the amazing food that students are eating for free around Massachusetts. And it's not just, you know, chicken nuggets and pizza, we know have sacred places on the school food menu. And it's not just that. And so, you know, I think that it really demystifies for parents and certainly our legislators and lawmakers as far as like, oh my gosh, students are getting like, I want to eat that. You know, I loved when I was in Springfield, I loved doing open houses where we would sample what we were serving to students and with handing out the menu at the same time and parents being like, oh, this is what my students get to eat. You know, this is what my kid gets to come and eat at school. It makes a big difference. And so picture is worth 1,000 words. So the more photos that we have of your beautiful trays, the better we can move this work forward. So want to make that plug and
I
we've
will
reached
say
the end.
it's added a healthy competitive element because one of the schools took that photo. Now the rest of them are upping their game. So it's great.
That's awesome.
And I agree. I have my manager here goes, Jackie, get your camera. Jackie, come and get your camera. And I'm like, oh, here I go. Yeah, I agree, Barrett. It makes it fun and it makes them hope to win. So we're gonna keep trying.
Oh, and the terrific trays, like as a reminder, it's not just getting on the front of the DESE newsletter. If you're a winner, you get some local swag. So there's some Mass Farm to School aprons that are coming to Barrett in Belchertown. But the top winners will open voting in April, and the top winner of the terrific trays competition over the course of the year will get 2 free tickets to the Healthy Kids, Healthy Programs Conference in May. And DESE is working behind the scenes to get a very special guest to provide the award to all the terrific tray winners, but especially the top vote getter. So I'm making that plug too. You're getting a little bit for your effort as well as the well-deserved accolades. So I want to open it up. We're at the end of our slide presentation. I'll start dropping more things into the chat. But what questions do attendees have that they want to share? Barrett and Jackie, if you have things that you wanted to share with one another, thinking about your respective presentations, if there were things that you wanted to add, please feel free. All of our contact information is up on the slide right there. And I'm going to try and find my chat box because by going into my browser to show folks around our website, I have the Q&A function, but I lost my chat. So I'm going to bumble around for a moment. Here we go.
I'll add that we did a kelp tasting. There's another company called Atlantic Sea Farm out of Maine, and they have products, a kelp burger. One is a pesto flavor, one is a ginger. And we did a tasting last year in our middle school, and the kids, they loved it. It was phenomenal. And their base is a brown rice base. And that's what we use as our veggie burger option in our middle school and high school now.
That's awesome. And like I had just learned about it, 2 minutes before our webinar started, and Barrett would love to hear more about that we can add to our vendor list.
Yeah, I can drop that in. I can put the link in the chat box, I think.
That would be awesome.
There it is.
That would be awesome. Wonderful. And I am not seeing, am I seeing any questions coming in right now? I'm going to stop sharing for a second so I can maneuver a little bit more. But yeah, I would say like there is this changing landscape of different things that are on offer. We have been hearing more about other poultry farmers specifically that are looking to work with school districts, and I was on a call with one farmer in a school district just last month where they were looking at their production cycle, and that poultry farmer needs an 8-week lead time to figure out raising the chicken to then put it on the menu. But some barbecue chicken is hopefully hitting some some delicious trays later this spring once that production gets up and rolling. And that'll be a Northeast Food for Schools purchase, which is really exciting to think about. Like, high quality local chicken, can be affordable for schools.
That's
So,
great.
yeah. Wonderful. Other questions that folks might have? All right. Well, I'm gonna drop the chat in the chat our feedback form for local beef and seafood. And in order to get your CEUs, please fill this out. I will also send it out to folks after today's webinar, in the event that you signed off just before I pop it in the chat. But thank you so much for attending today's webinar, and please be in touch if you have questions. If you have questions about how to add some of these foods onto your school menus. I thought that I had all my links ready to go, and I didn't. All right. And here we are. Wonderful. So folks can fill out that form. It's a quick Google form. If you complete it, you'll be able to get your CEU credits. But thanks for attending today's webinar, and we look forward to touching base with you all soon. Oh, Barrett, I'm going to put the Atlantic Sea Farms in the chat as well, because that's
Perfect.
great for everyone to have access to in the event they're on.
All right.
All right. I didn't get anything in my chat. All right. I wondered, I'll put it in the Q&A as well. If it'll copy. Oh no. It's I'm having one of those tech days today. Oh, this is great.
We all have them.
Oh my goodness. Ah. Well, and it's so, because I'm the tech person for my family sometimes, and so it's so embarrassing when, here you go. All right. Hopefully I popped the link also into the Q&A. So hopefully you now see, if the chat is there, you hopefully see the feedback form link. And in the Q&A, there's the feedback form link, and it looks like folks got it. Okay, wonderful. All right. Well, thank you all, and thank you especially to our panelists, Jackie and Barrett. Thanks for hanging in with us this afternoon. It's really great.
And thank you, Abby, for all the hard work you guys are doing in Mass Farm to School. I really appreciate all of the help you give us.
Yeah,
it's fun and delicious. And I would say, if you are a SNA member of chapters 1, 2, 3, or 5, I will be doing a road show at the end of the month to highlight a local pizza crust that is being made out of Lynn, Massachusetts, that can be used for a flatbread pizza or a regular pizza, as well as different local toppings that you might want to add to pizzas that you're already making, utilizing some NFS eligible foods later this year. So,
and are they selling through a distributor, or are they selling on their own?
Currently, they're selling on their own. So they are working on getting through some distribution. So I might have more news by the end of the month. So
Awesome.
stay tuned. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so
Wonderful.
much.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you. Bye now.
Bye.